Hi everyone, and welcome to another Woven Daily Devotional. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pippa and I have the amazing privilege of overseeing our work with 11 to 18 year olds, both within our church community and within the community surrounding our churches. So today we are reading from Mark 3 verses 13 to 35. I'm going to read it. If you want to follow along, do. So we're starting at verse 13. Afterward, Jesus went up the mountainside and called to himself the men he wanted to be close companions. So they went up the mountainside to join him. He appointed the 12 whom he named apostles. He wanted them to be continually at his side as his friends, and so that he could send them out to preach and have authority to heal the sick and cast out demons. He appointed his 12 and gave Simon the nickname Peter and the Rock, and he gave the brothers Jacob and John, the sons of Zebedee, the nickname Boanerges, which means passionate sons. The others were Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, Jacob, the son of Alphaeus, Thaddaeus, Simon the nationalist, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. Then Jesus went home, but once again a large crowd gathered around him, which prevented him from even eating a meal. When his own family heard that he was there, they went out to seize him, for they said, "He's gone insane." The religious scholars also arrived from Jerusalem were saying, "Satan has possessed him. He casts out demons by the authority of the prince of demons." Jesus called them to himself and spoke to them using parables. "How can Satan cast out Satan? No kingdom can endure it if it is divided against itself. And a splintered household will not be able to stand, for it is divided. And if Satan fights against himself, he will not endure, and his end has come." Jesus said to them, "Listen, no one is able to break a mighty man's house and steal his property unless he first overpowers the mighty man and ties him up. Then his entire house can be plundered and his possessions taken. I tell you this timeless truth, all sin will be forgiven, even all the blasphemies they speak. But there can never be forgiveness for the one who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit, for he is guilty of an eternal sin. This is because they said he was empowered by a demon spirit." Then Jesus' mother and his brothers came and stood outside and sent a message to him, asking that he come out and speak with them. When the crowd sitting around Jesus heard this, they spoke up and said to them, "Jesus, your mother and your brothers are outside looking for you." He answered them, saying, "Who is my true mother and my true brothers?" Then looking into the eyes of those that were sitting around him, he said, "Here are my true family members. Whoever does the will of God is my brother, my sister, and my mother." So there's a passage that's full of some interesting stories, and some of the verses could be a little bit complicated to get our head around, but I'm just going to try and give you a bit of an overview of what I kind of felt like Jesus is trying to teach us in that. So first off, Jesus chooses his 12 apostles, and Jesus handpicks and chooses 12 men to be his close companions. And they were a really important part to Jesus' ministry and in the years to come afterwards. And in this translation, it said that he wanted them continually by his side. And this is where we see that they're not just students, they were disciples. And the difference is a disciple learned by being and hearing from their master. A disciple was an apprentice and learned from their master firsthand. And the first thing that Jesus wants them to do is to be with him. Jesus then uses the word apostle, and the word apostle means to be sent. So obviously he just didn't want them to stay with him. He wanted them to be able to go and to be sent, to be able to love others, to preach the good news, to heal the sick and cast out demons. In this passage, Jesus also gave them different names, and what those names represented was something that Jesus saw in them and wanted to call out of them. So such as Simon, who named Peter, meaning rock. He was going to be the strong one in the group, and he was the one that was going to take the lead. Then we move on to Jesus and the ruler of demons. His close friends and family thought he had gone mad. Now, which you can understand a little, and he had gone from not doing very much and just being a carpenter to performing all these miracles, calling a group of men to come and follow him, and lots of people hated him and wanted him dead. I think I'd have thought he'd gone a bit mad as well, and people at the time still weren't really sure who Jesus really was. The leaders and authorities were saying Jesus was not just possessed by a demon, but by Satan himself. And Jesus' response was, why would I fight against myself if I was Satan? He had made the point that a divided household would collapse, and took the logic out of that accusation. Jesus also then went on to use the illustration of breaking into a mighty man's house. I'm guessing that would be like breaking into the world's strongest man's house. You needed a stronger man to be able to overcome him. In order to break in and take all his stuff, you'd have to be stronger. And this represents that Jesus is more powerful than Satan. We see this when Jesus goes to the cross and defeats the enemy. He no longer has any power, as Jesus has defeated him. Jesus, in the last verses of this devotion, tells us that his family are people that want to do the will of God in their lives, and changes the notion of family to be about being adopted into the family of God, rather than it just being your earthly family. So what does this all mean for us in our lives? So Jesus calls us disciples. So he calls us to learn from him and to walk closely with him. He doesn't want to lecture us. He doesn't want us He wants us to learn as we go with him. As we draw close to God, to be part of that also means being sent into the world and to go and preach the good news of Jesus, and to pray for the sick and to cast out demons. You see, God always gives us an invitation into relationship with him, but it is up to him it is up to us to step into that invitation. As we see from the names Jesus gives his disciples, he was speaking it into being who it was he'd called them to be. But they had to step into what God had for them. And for Peter, at times, it felt like a heavy weight to carry, but he chose it. And many amazing things happened because he chose to say yes to Jesus. The second point I think we see from this passage, that Jesus' plan was always to overcome the devil. He wasn't just going to keep him quiet, but he was going to take him out and all the stuff that comes with him. Jesus conquered all of that through the cross. That is the authority that we walk in and are sent out in today. Thirdly, Jesus tells us that our place is in his family. For all of us, and there's a place for all of us. No one is more special than the other. We're all part of God's family. Today, as you think about this passage, remember Jesus calls you to walk in closeness with him, to be sent ones, and to know his authority that you walk in, and that we are all part of his family. Hope you have an amazing day, guys. We're still praying for you, and hopefully see you all soon.